They stormed into shops, hospitals, and news agencies. Nearby public facilities, transportation, and electric power lines were damaged. Some riot police were cornered and beaten. Others were stoned.
It's almost exactly 6 months since the streets of Lhasa erupted in violent riots, pushing Tibet to the forefront of international attention. Since then, only a handful of Western journalists have been allowed in. Now, we're being allowed to spend several days there as the government tries to show that life is returning to normal. Tourists are already trickling back to Tibet, and hundreds are here as pilgrims. This is the Lhasa which both Chinese and foreign travellers seek, an unspoilt place of peace and spirituality, away from the pressures and conflicts of modern life. But while the devout prostrate themselves before the Jokang temple, armed police are patrolling the streets. Some officials say they'll be gone in months. It's impossible to know for sure. Next year marks the 50th anniversary of the failed uprising against Chinese rule in Tibet. And after March, the authorities are taking no chances.
Local officials in Tibet say there is plenty of evidence to prove that the incident was masterminded by the Dalai clique.
State television blamed a small number of separatists for the events of March 14th. Outside experts disagree, and the exiled spiritual leader denies any link to violence. He says he wants only autonomy for Tibet. Independent eyewitnesses described vicious, apparently spontaneous ethnic unrest. It included mass, sometimes fatal, attacks on Han Chinese and Hui Muslims. Economic inequality is not unique to Tibet, but it seems to be mixing with ethnic and cultural divisions with potent effect. Many Tibetans feel that Han migration is eroding their way of life, that rapid development is primarily benefiting the Han, and that the authorities are exploiting Tibet's resources for the rest of China's benefit. But this senior official said huge government subsidies have boosted living conditions.
These last 5 years have seen the fastest economic development in Tibet. Farmers and herders have benefited a lot. We have seen the most industrial construction. In these 5 years, the infrastructure has seen the most obvious improvement. The economic development has returned to the normal situation, and society is stable.
Yet many Tibetans fear their culture and language are increasingly fragile, and not just because of development. They resent controls on religion and patriotic education in schools and monasteries.
The situation in Tibet now is like this. The monks in the monasteries are very happy and grateful with the government policies and care. And also you can see prayer flags, prayer wheels, praying and Buddhist scriptures everywhere. If you are a believer, you can ask a monk into your home to perform Buddhist rituals. And if you have time, you can go to a monastery to pray with prayer wheels and scriptures and so on.
But while we were able to visit monasteries, we were told we could not speak to anyone there. And others in Tibet are reluctant to talk, given the extensive security network. One said it was too dangerous to speak your mind. If it snows here, you still don't say it's snowing, he added. More Tibetans live outside the autonomous region than within, and unrest spread across nearby provinces in March. There were mass arrests of protesters and monks, raids on monasteries, and reports of deaths at police hands. We travelled to neighbouring Qinghai to find Tibetans willing to be interviewed. Tight security restrictions have been lifted, but while we visited several monasteries, most people were too frightened to talk. This man said he had been waiting to tell his story, and described how smouldering anger at discrimination sparked clashes even before the March unrest. He asked us not to use his voice.
A Tibetan man and a Hui trader had an altercation. The police arrived and arrested all the Tibetans involved. So the man got angry and said to the policeman, "You've not arrested the Hui man, but you have arrested me. You should have investigated and said, 'You are right, you are wrong,' and the situation could have been diffused." So our Tibetan people started making comments like, "Our fellow Tibetans are being arrested. They are being biased and taking sides."
Fighting erupted, and police detained scores of people. When other monks and Tibetans appealed for their release, the authorities arrested them too. Many are still detained.
They were manhandled and treated very badly. There were cases of monks and lamas who had been pushed off the vehicle and sustained fractures and injuries on their hands and feet. If we had been accorded basic dignity as humans, such maltreatment would not have been allowed. So we Tibetans don't have freedom. We don't have the right even to express one word. That is how it is. Now there is no freedom at all.